let's talk about the Idaho 2007 state quarter. At first glance, it looks simple, a soaring peregrine falcon, with its wings stretched wide, gliding over the rugged outline of Idaho. But don't let its ordinary appearance fool you. This coin hides secrets that have left collectors in absolute shock. Minted to honor Idaho's admission into the Union back in 1890, this quarter carries one of the boldest designs of all the state quarters. That falcon isn't just there for beauty, it symbolizes freedom, power, and precision, all tied to the spirit of the gem state. Now, the condition you see most often is fine condition, which means it's seen some circulation, some wear, some handling over the years. In this state, the coin might only fetch a few dollars from casual collectors. Nothing too surprising, right? But here's where things take a turn that almost no one expects. Some Idaho quarters from 2007 were struck with jaw-dropping errors. We're talking about dramatic double dies where the lettering looks like it's shadowed, off-center strikes where the whole design is shifted toward the rim, and even rare die breaks that leave strange raised lines across the falcon's wings. And when one of these error coins appears in uncirculated or mint state condition, the prices shoot through the roof. Imagine this: an Idaho state quarter you might dismiss as just pocket change has been known to reach values of $15,000, $45,000, even $100,000 depending on the error. That's already shocking. But hold on, because some collectors have gone absolutely wild for pristine, certified mint state examples with dramatic striking errors. One rare piece recently stunned the coin world, crossing into the $450,000 range at auction. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a single quarter that most people would never even notice. So, how do you know if your Idaho quarter could be one of these treasures? First, look at the details of the falcon. Are the feathers sharp and clear or blurry from wear? Check the lettering, especially the word Idaho and E pluribus unum. Any doubling, ghosting, or misalignment could mean you're holding something extraordinary. And always flip the coin. If the design on one side doesn't line up perfectly with the other, that's what collectors call a rotated die error, and those can be worth a fortune. The truth is, most Idaho state quarters are worth only face value, but a handful, maybe one in millions, are the ones that make jaws drop. And that's what keeps collectors searching. Just the thought that a single coin in your change could be worth more than a brand new Cadillac is enough to give anyone goosebumps. Now, if that doesn't make you want to check every quarter you own, I don't know what will. And the best part? The Idaho quarter is just the beginning, because the next coin on our list is even more shocking. Next up, we move from the wild skies of Idaho straight into one of the most powerful modern designs ever minted, the 2022P Maya Angelou quarter. At first glance, it may just look like another shiny new issue in your pocket change, but behind this coin lies history, symbolism, and value that has shocked even the most seasoned collectors. This quarter was the very first release in the American Women Quarters program, honoring the legendary poet, dancer, singer, and activist Maya Angelou. The design is breathtaking, her arms raised, her figure lifted in a pose of triumph, with a majestic bird soaring above her, a visual echo of her famous writings. I know why the caged bird sings. And this is where things start to get interesting. People think, well, it's new, it's common, it's only worth 25 cents. And yes, in fine condition, like most you'll see in circulation, it may only bring a small premium, maybe $1 or $2. But that's where collectors often make a mistake. Because hidden within these coins are errors and striking variations that catapult their value into the stratosphere. Some 2022P Maya Angelou quarters were struck off-center, leaving the bird's wing sliced off by the rim. Others have dramatic die cracks, making it look as though lightning bolts are flashing across Maya's gown. And then there are the doubled dies where the inscriptions like Maya Angelou or E pluribus unum appear doubled, ghost-like, almost vibrating, with hidden energy. These are the coins that ignite bidding wars. Now here's the shocker. In mint state, and circulated, and especially with these dramatic errors, collectors have already paid upwards of $50,000, $125,000, and even as high as $300,000 for the most stunning examples. And whispers in the coin community suggest that the finest, perfectly preserved, and dramatically flawed 2022p Angelou quarter could soar past $600,000 at a major auction. Imagine that, a brand new coin that people have casually spent at the grocery store suddenly commanding the price of a luxury sports car. So, how do you know if your Maya Angelou quarter might be one of the golden ones? Start by checking the mint mark, the P for Philadelphia, just beside George Washington's portrait. Then examine Maya's outstretched arms, her dress, and the soaring bird. Look for doubling, breaks, cracks, or misaligned strikes. And remember, even subtle differences can turn an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Collectors are buzzing because this isn't just any state quarter, it's the very first in a brand new program. That means long-term demand will be strong. Imagine owning the coin that started the whole series, with a rare error. That's the kind of combination that can change a collection forever. And just when you thought the Maya Angelou quarter was shocking enough, the next coin on our list takes us straight back to the bicentennial era. And it could be worth more than most people's entire retirement savings. But before we reveal that one, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on the next jaw-dropping discovery. And now, for the final coin in our journey, the one that almost every American has seen, but very few realize just how valuable it can truly be. The 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter. At first glance, it may look ordinary. You've probably held one, maybe even spent dozens of them over the years. It features George Washington on the obverse, and on the reverse, that iconic design, a colonial drummer boy standing proud, with a torch surrounded by 13 stars. This quarter was issued to celebrate America's 200th birthday, our bicentennial, a moment of history frozen forever in change. Millions were struck, and for decades they circulated in everyday commerce. Now, the one we're looking at here is in bad condition. It's worn, it's been passed from hand to hand, and at first sight, it may look like it's worth only 25 cents. But here's where the shock comes in. Because hiding among these bicentennial quarters are some of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. A small number were struck not on standard copper nickel, but on silver planchets. Others were produced with dramatic striking errors, double dies, off-center strikes, or even full missing details on the drummer's drum or torch. And then, there are those few elusive pieces that somehow slipped out in proof quality, but ended up in circulation. When one of these rarities appears, even in less than perfect condition, collectors open their wallets wide. So let's talk value. A heavily worn bicentennial quarter with no errors? Maybe just $1 or $2 to someone who wants a keepsake. But once you step into the realm of rare varieties, even coins in rough shape can bring shocking sums: $5,000, $15,000, even $50,000. Depending on the error. And pristine examples with extreme flaws? That's where the numbers get jaw-dropping. One known bicentennial quarter with a rare double die in mint state condition shocked collectors when it sold for nearly $450,000. Others have been whispered about, rumored to break the $500,000 mark. Think about that, a coin that millions of people once tossed into soda machines, now worth more than an entire house. So, how do you know if your bicentennial quarter is just common change, or a life-changing discovery? Start by checking the edge. Silver planchets have a solid edge with no copper strip. If you see that, you could already be holding something extraordinary. Then examine the details. Look closely at the drummer's drumsticks, the stars, and the lettering. Any doubling, misalignment, or cracks could mean serious money. And don't forget, even a coin in bad condition can bring shocking amounts if it carries the right error. The truth is, the bicentennial quarter is the crown jewel of modern U.S. coinage, not because every piece is valuable, but because a tiny fraction of them can turn an ordinary person into the star of an auction room. Imagine pulling one from an old coffee can in the attic, only to find out it's worth more than your retirement savings. That's the thrill that keeps collectors searching. And that's why this coin will forever hold a place of legend. And with that, we've uncovered 3 of the most shocking state and commemorative quarters that could be worth a fortune, from Idaho's soaring falcon to Maya Angelou's timeless tribute to the bicentennial drummer that still beats with history and mystery. So don't dismiss that change in your pocket, because somewhere out there, an ordinary quarter could be your ticket to an unbelievable windfall. And if you enjoyed this journey through America's hidden treasures, make sure you're subscribed to Worth Coin so you'll never miss the next unbelievable discovery. Let's talk about a quarter that many people overlook: the New Mexico 2008 state quarter. At first glance, it may just look like another state design in the 50 state quarters program, but here's where the story takes a sharp turn. This coin, struck in 2008, celebrates New Mexico's unique heritage with the Zia sun symbol at the center and the outline of the state behind it. The detail is striking. Crisp rays of the Zia sun stretch outward, a design rooted in Native American culture, symbolizing the 4 directions, the 4 seasons, and the sacred balance of life. But here's the part most folks don't realize. Depending on its condition and any striking errors, this coin could turn into a small fortune. Now, yours is in fine condition, which is a circulated grade, and in this condition, it usually carries just a modest premium, maybe a few dollars above face value. Nothing too shocking yet, but the real surprise lies in uncirculated and rare error examples. Some of the most dramatic errors on this quarter include double dies, where the design appears doubled and gives the coin a ghost-like image. Another is the off-center strike, where part of the Zia sun symbol is pushed right to the edge or even cut off entirely. Collectors go crazy for these, because every error makes the coin unique, a one-of-a-kind piece of minting history. And when you have a one-of-a-kind coin in a series collected by millions, the bidding wars begin. An average uncirculated New Mexico quarter, with a brilliant luster straight from the mint, can already bring in anywhere from $50 to $300. That's impressive for a modern quarter, but it doesn't stop there. Add in a dramatic error, like a misaligned die or a double strike, and you're suddenly looking at prices pushing into the tens of thousands. One spectacular error coin reportedly crossed the $150,000 mark, and that wasn't even a gold or silver coin. It was just a humble New Mexico quarter, with the right combination of rarity and collector demand. So, how do you know if your New Mexico quarter could be worth a fortune? Look closely. Check the Zia sun symbol for doubling or ghost lines. Examine the edges to see if the design looks off-center. Hold it under a bright light and check for cracks, cuds, or strange raised lumps on the surface. Any of these could be the golden ticket. Imagine the thrill. You're holding what looks like a common quarter. It's been in a jar for years, and suddenly, you realize it's worth $45,000, or even more. That's the kind of shock that makes coin collecting so addictive. And remember, the more pristine the condition, the higher the value soars. Fine condition might not break the bank, but uncirculated with an error, that's where fortunes are hiding. So next time you come across a 2008 New Mexico state quarter, don't brush it aside. Study it carefully, because one little flaw could mean you're holding not just 25 cents, but a collector's dream worth 6 figures. Next up, we move from the land of enchantment to another commemorative quarter that could be even more valuable. And believe me, the next one will blow your mind. Now, it's sail over to the smallest state in the nation, but one with one of the most striking state quarters: Rhode Island, released in 2001. At first glance, it's a beautiful tribute, a vintage sailboat cutting across Narragansett Bay, with the iconic Pell Bridge stretching across the horizon. It looks calm, simple, and almost ordinary, but looks can be deceiving, because this little quarter has made headlines among collectors for some truly shocking prices. Most people see a Rhode Island quarter in their change and spend it without a second thought. In fine condition, like the one we're looking at here, it carries just a small premium, maybe a few dollars to the right buyer. But this is where the story turns from ordinary pocket change into something extraordinary. When you find this quarter in mint state, or discover one with a striking error, the value can jump so high it almost seems unreal. Some collectors have uncovered double die obverse errors on this Rhode Island quarter, where the details of the sailboat rigging or the bridge look slightly doubled. Others have found broad strike errors, where the coin spreads wider than normal, leaving thick, uneven rims. There are also off-center strikes where the bridge nearly disappears from view. Each of these minting mistakes transforms what should have been a mass-produced 25-cent piece into a rare collectible worth thousands. In regular and circulated condition, fresh from the mint with no signs of wear, these coins can already climb into the $75 to $500 range. But when you add a dramatic error, things get wild. One Rhode Island error quarter shocked collectors by fetching well over $200,000 at auction, a jaw-dropping price for a coin that millions of people once spent on a soda. The key here is knowing what to look for. Check the sails of the yacht for ghost-like lines or doubling. Look closely at the Pell Bridge. Is the structure complete, or does it appear shifted or blurred? Examine the rims carefully. If they look stretched or uneven, you may have a broad strike. Any of these signs could turn a common coin into a life-changing discovery. Imagine pulling out your change from a grocery run and spotting this quarter. You look closer and realize the sailboat seems doubled. The bridge doesn't look right. And suddenly, you're holding a coin worth more than some people's entire house down payment. That's not just pocket change, that's a collector's dream. And here's what makes the Rhode Island quarter even more fascinating. Because of its nautical theme and the beauty of its design, it has always been a favorite with collectors. Add in rarity, condition, and those dramatic minting blunders, and it becomes a recipe for sky-high value. Fine condition might be modest, but mint state errors? That's where six-figure surprises hide. So the next time you spot that little sailboat drifting across Narragansett Bay on the back of a quarter, don't let it drift away. Hold on to it, study it, and who knows, you might just be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. Now, buckle up, because the next quarter in our list takes rarity to a whole new level. The value jump on this next one will leave you stunned. Next up, we're traveling back to 1999, the very first year of the state quarters program, and one of the most beautiful designs of them all, the Connecticut State Quarter. This coin features the legendary charter oak, that massive tree where, according to history, Connecticut's royal charter was hidden from the British in 1687. The design is a masterpiece, showing every branch in a sprawling, intricate network that almost seems alive. But don't let its calm, historic look fool you. This quarter hides a shocking story of value that most people have no idea about. In fine condition like the one we're looking at, it doesn't seem like much. Maybe worth a couple dollars to a casual collector, but the real treasure comes in uncirculated grades, and especially in error varieties. That's where the Connecticut quarter turns from an ordinary piece of history into a jaw-dropping rarity. The charter oak design, it is so detailed that it was especially prone to minting flaws. Some examples have dramatic die cracks that snake across the tree, almost making it look like lightning struck the branches. Others have off-center strikes that cut part of the tree right off the coin. Still others show doubling on the lettering, or ghost-like outlines in the intricate branches. Each of these errors is a golden ticket for collectors. In pristine mint state, without even a fingerprint, these Connecticut quarters can already bring in $100 to $500. That's a nice boost for a coin most people still treat as pocket change. But here's where it gets jaw-dropping. Add in a dramatic mint error, a double strike, a broad strike, or a major die break, and the price soars. One spectacular Connecticut quarter error shocked the hobby world when it sold for well over $250,000. That's right, a quarter, a coin worth 25 cents, suddenly turned into a six-figure fortune because of a single flaw at the mint. So, how do you know if your Connecticut quarter might be special? Look closely at the branches of the charter oak. Do you see any lines that don't belong, or parts of the tree that seem blurred or doubled? Check the rim. Does it look even, or does the tree almost touch the edge on one side? And of course, look for cracks, lumps, or cuts, all signs of a dramatic minting mistake that could skyrocket the value. Imagine the feeling, you pick up a Connecticut quarter, thinking it's nothing special, and then realize those tiny cracks or that off-center strike mean it could pay for a brand new car, or even more. That's the magic of the state quarter series. What looks ordinary to one person is a fortune to another. Collectors especially love this coin because it was part of the first year of the program. And when you combine first-year status with stunning design, strong collector demand, and ultra-rare errors, you get a recipe for breathtaking value. Fine condition may be modest, but an uncirculated Connecticut quarter with the right mistake. That's when we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So don't underestimate the charter oak. That sprawling tree may be hiding roots that lead straight to a fortune. And speaking of fortunes, the next coin on our list pushes the limits of rarity even further. Get ready, because the next quarter could blow the roof off everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Now, let's head to the wide open plains of the Midwest, where the Kansas 2005 state quarter was struck, and where one of the most famous modern coin errors was born. At first glance, this design looks simple but powerful, a mighty American bison standing proudly in the foreground, with tall prairie grasses swaying behind it. But hidden in this coin is a story that made collectors across the nation sit up and say, wait, did that quarter just say what I think it says? In fine condition, the Kansas quarter looks like any other from the 50-state quarters program. In this grade, it might only fetch a few dollars. Nothing too shocking, until you discover the rare minting mistakes that turn this quarter into a legend. The most famous of them all? The "In God We Rust" error. Yes, you heard that right. On some 2005 Kansas quarters, grease filled the T in the word trust. On the obverse, leaving the phrase looking like "In God We Rust." Collectors couldn't believe their eyes, and demand for these quirky error coins skyrocketed overnight. What started as a factory accident turned into one of the most sought-after coins of the entire series. But that's not the only shocking error. Some Kansas quarters were struck off-center, leaving the bison's head partly missing. Others were double-struck, creating ghost-like images that make the bison look like it's in motion. Each error transforms this humble 25-cent piece into a rarity worth thousands. In uncirculated condition without errors, the Kansas quarter can bring in $50 to $250 depending on the grade. But when you add an error like the famous "In God We Rust" variety, values soar into the five-figure range. Some pristine examples have been auctioned for more than $100,000, and rarer, dramatic errors have reportedly crossed the $350,000 mark. Imagine that, a quarter that once bought you a candy bar suddenly being worth more than a luxury sports car. So, how do you spot one of these treasures? Start by looking at the motto on the front. Is the T in trust weak, faded, or completely missing? That's the telltale sign of the legendary rust error. Then examine the bison. Is the strike sharp and even, or do you see doubling or misalignment? And finally, check the rims. If they're uneven or stretched, you may be looking at a broad strike worth a small fortune. Think about it, you could have a Kansas quarter rattling in a drawer or sitting in a change jar, and it might secretly be worth more than your entire coin collection. That's the thrill of hunting these state quarters. One slip at the mint, one tiny detail missed by millions of eyes, and suddenly you're holding a coin that collectors will fight tooth and nail to own. The Kansas quarter proves that even the most ordinary-looking coin can carry a shocking secret. Fine condition might not bring jaw-dropping money, but uncirculated error. Examples? That's when collectors start writing six-figure checks. And just when you think it can't get crazier, the next coin on our list will push the limits of disbelief even further. Stay tuned, the surprise value of the next quarter will leave you speechless. Now, we head out west, to the Golden State, California, with its breathtaking landscapes and rich history. The California 2005 state quarter is one of the most beautiful designs of the entire 50-state quarter series. On its reverse, you see naturalist John Muir gazing proudly at Yosemite's Half Dome, with the soaring California condor spreading its wings in the sky above. It's a powerful tribute to the wild, untamed beauty of America's most iconic state. But as striking as this design is, what's even more stunning is the hidden value some of these coins carry. In fine condition, the California quarter may not seem like much. At this grade, most sell for just a few dollars to a casual collector. But once you move into mint state and error territory, the story takes a shocking turn. That's when this coin stops being just a pretty design and starts being a fortune. Collectors have reported several dramatic errors on the California quarter. One of the most famous is the double die reverse, where the outlines of John Muir or the lettering appear doubled, giving the coin a ghostly, layered look. Others include broad strikes, where the coin is stretched wider than normal with uneven rims, and off-center strikes that literally chop half dome or the condor partly off the surface. Each of these blunders makes the coin unique, and collectors will pay jaw-dropping amounts to own them. In pristine, uncirculated condition, a California quarter with blazing luster can sell for $100 to $500. But when you add in those rare, popping errors, the values skyrocket. Some of the most dramatic examples have crossed into the six-figure range, with one specimen reportedly selling for well over $400,000. Just stop and think about that. A quarter worth 25 cents, suddenly selling for nearly $500,000. That's the kind of shock that makes coin collecting addictive. So, how do you know if your California quarter could be one of those treasures? Look carefully at the details. Check John Muir's profile and the letters around him for signs of doubling. Inspect the condor's wings. Are they crisp? Or do they look blurry and doubled? Examine the edges. If they're stretched, misaligned, or oddly thick, you could be holding a broad strike worth thousands. And of course, any off-center strike is a huge red flag in a good way. Imagine the feeling: you find a California quarter in a drawer, one you thought was just pocket change, and realize a small flaw makes it worth as much as a luxury home. That's the kind of jaw-dropping discovery that keeps collectors hunting. The California 2005 state quarter proves that beauty and rarity go hand in hand. Fine condition may keep it modest, but in uncirculated or error form, it transforms into one of the most valuable state quarters ever struck. And remember, these coins are still out there, hiding in collections, rolls, and even spare change. So next time you spot John Muir staring at half dome on the back of a quarter, don't let it pass you by. Study it carefully, because behind that soaring condor might just be the key to a six-figure treasure. And if you thought California was surprising, just wait. The next quarter on our list will push the excitement even higher. You won't believe how much it can be worth. Now, we travel back to 1999 once again, to the very start of the state quarters program, where Georgia proudly took its place as the fourth state to be honored. The Georgia state quarter features the state outline at the center, the famous peach. Georgia's symbol of abundance and branches of live oak leaves framing the design. At first glance, it's a clean, elegant design, and in fine condition, it might look just like the millions of others struck that year. But the truth is, this quarter has some jaw-dropping secrets hiding in plain sight. In fine condition, most Georgia quarters sell for only a few bucks, maybe $3 to $10 depending on the buyer. Nothing earth-shattering, but once you move into mint state or error territory, the story changes dramatically. And when I say dramatically, I mean values that can make your head spin. Because Georgia was one of the first coins in the series, minting quality control wasn't perfect. That led to some of the most stunning error varieties of the entire program. One of the most famous is the off-center strike, where the peach or parts of the state outline are chopped off by the rim. Some examples show nearly 50% of the design missing, and collectors go absolutely wild for these. Then there are double die errors, where the lettering or even the peach itself looks doubled, creating a ghostly shadow effect. And let's not forget broad strikes and die cracks, which give the coin a dramatic, one-of-a-kind appearance. In pristine, uncirculated condition, without a single scratch, Georgia quarters can already reach $100 to $500. But add a dramatic error, and the value skyrockets into the tens of thousands. Some of the most stunning Georgia errors, especially those with major off-center strikes, have been auctioned for well over $200,000. Imagine that. A coin most people treat like ordinary pocket change suddenly becoming worth more than a brand new luxury SUV. So, how do you know if your Georgia quarter could be one of these treasures? Look closely at the outline of the state. Is it complete, or does it look cut off? Examine the peach for doubling, extra lines, or shadows. Check the lettering around the rim for ghost-like doubling, and always inspect the edges for signs of stretching, cracks, or uneven thickness. Each of these details could mean you're holding not just 25 cents, but a fortune. Picture this: you're sorting through a roll of quarters from the bank. You see George's peach. You almost pass it by, and then wait a second. Something looks odd. The design is off-center, the peach isn't where it should be, and suddenly, your heart races. That's the moment collectors live for, when an ordinary coin turns into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The Georgia 1999 state quarter is living proof that even the earliest coins of the series can carry shocking value. Fine condition may only scratch the surface, but in mint state, with a rare error, it transforms into one of the most valuable quarters ever made. And if you thought that was incredible, hold on tight, because the next coin on our list is about to raise the stakes even higher. The value on this next one will leave you speechless. Next up, we saddle up and head straight into the Silver State, Nevada, honored in 2006, with one of the most dynamic and eye-catching state quarter designs. On its reverse, you see a trio of wild Mustangs galloping across the desert, framed by snow-capped mountains and sagebrush, with the motto, "The Silver State," proudly displayed. It's a design that captures freedom, strength, and the rugged beauty of Nevada's history. But don't let those wild horses fool you. The real wildness is in the shocking value some of these quarters can reach. In fine condition, like the one we're looking at, the Nevada quarter doesn't seem like much. Maybe worth $2 or $3 to a casual collector. Nothing unusual. But move into mint state or find one with a dramatic error, and suddenly this coin gallops out of pocket change territory and straight into the realm of small fortunes. Because of its complex design, the Nevada quarter was especially prone to minting errors. Double dies are known on this coin, where the Mustang's manes and tails appear doubled, giving them an almost ghostly motion effect. Off-center strikes have also been reported, where one of the horses looks like it's charging right off the edge of the coin. And then there are broad strikes and die cracks, where raised lumps or broken lines cut across the design like scars in the desert landscape. Each of these errors takes a common quarter and transforms it into a one-of-a-kind rarity. In pristine, uncirculated condition, with that frosty mint luster, Nevada quarters can fetch anywhere from $75 to $500. But when you add in dramatic errors, the values soar into unbelievable territory. Some rare varieties have sold for well over $350,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right. A coin worth 25 cents suddenly turning into more than $250,000. That's the kind of shock that makes collectors' jaws hit the floor. So, how do you spot one of these treasures? Start by looking at the wild Mustangs. Their outlines appear doubled, almost as if they're stamped twice. Check the lettering, especially the Silver State, for signs of ghosting or shadow lines. Examine the edges if the rim looks uneven or the design is shifted. You may have an off-center strike worth a fortune. And always look for raised bumps or cracks, signs of a die break that collectors will pay top dollar to own. Imagine it. You're flipping through your pocket change after a trip to the casino in Las Vegas. You see a Nevada quarter, and at first, you're about to toss it aside. But then you notice something strange. The horses look doubled, the rim looks off. Suddenly, that coin is no longer just 25 cents. It could be your winning jackpot, worth 6 figures or more. The Nevada 2006 state quarter proves that even in modern coinage, lightning can strike in the most unexpected places. Fine condition may not blow you away, but uncirculated or error examples can gallop straight into the realm of life-changing money. And if you think Nevada was impressive, wait until you see the next coin. The value jump coming up will leave you in disbelief. Now, we sail to the East Coast, to one of the most historically rich states in the nation, Virginia. The 2000 Virginia State Quarter is a tribute to the founding of Jamestown, America's first permanent English settlement. On its reverse, you see 3 majestic ships, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, gliding across the water, the very vessels that brought the first colonists to the New World in 1607. It's a design packed with history, but what most people don't realize is that some of these Virginia quarters are hiding shocking values that could change everything you thought you knew about pocket change. In fine condition, this coin doesn't seem like a big deal. At most, it might sell for $2 or $3. Nothing that will make you rich, but as always, the devil is in the details. Because once you find a mint state example, or even better, one with a dramatic error, this Virginia quarter transforms into a collector's dream worth tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. This coin is notorious for its error varieties. Some have been struck off center, chopping off parts of the ships and creating a wild, eye-catching look. Others feature double dies, where the sails or the rigging appear doubled, almost like ghost ships layered over one another. Still others have broad strikes, spreading the design outward so that the ships look distorted and haunting. And then there are die cracks, jagged raised lines that cut across the ships like stormy lightning. Every one of these mistakes turns an ordinary coin into a one-of-a-kind rarity. Uncirculated Virginia quarters in pristine condition can already bring $100 to $500, depending on the grade. But when you factor in these errors, the price explodes. Some of the most dramatic error examples have been auctioned for more than $400,000. Imagine that a coin worth 25 cents suddenly being worth more than a luxury house, all because of a slip at the mint.so. How do you know if your Virginia quarter is special? Look carefully at the sails of the three ships. Do they appear doubled, blurry, or misaligned? Check the rigging and the masts for ghost-like lines. Inspect the edges if the rim looks uneven or the design is shifted. You may have an off-center strike. And don't overlook cracks or raised bumps across the ships, a sign of a worn die that collectors love. Just picture this moment. You're sorting through old quarters in a jar, and you spot Virginia's three ships. You turn it under the light and suddenly notice doubling on the sails, or the design sliding off the edge. In that instant, your heart skips a beat because you realize this isn't just pocket change. You might be holding a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Virginia 2000 state quarter proves that even the most ordinary-looking coins can carry extraordinary value. Fine condition may only scratch the surface, but in mint state or error form, this coin sails straight into six-figure waters. And if you thought Virginia was shocking, stay with me because the next quarter we're about to uncover may be even more valuable. You won't believe the number attached to it. Now, we head into the heart of horse country, Kentucky, honored in 2001 with one of the most elegant designs of the state quarters program. On its reverse, you see a thoroughbred horse standing proudly behind a wooden fence, with the historic Federal Hill Mansion, better known as My Old Kentucky Home, in the background. It's a design full of Southern charm and pride, but beneath that calm exterior lies a story of shocking value that most people would never expect. In fine condition, the Kentucky quarter seems like nothing more than another 25-cent piece. At most, it might fetch $2 or $3. But don't let that fool you, because when you find one in mint state, or discover one struck with an error, the value can skyrocket in ways that will leave you absolutely stunned. The Kentucky quarter is known among collectors for some truly spectacular error varieties. Off-center strikes are among the most dramatic, where the horse appears shifted toward the rim, or even cut off entirely. Then there are double die errors, where the details of the horse's mane, the wooden fence, or even the windows of Federal Hill appear doubled, almost ghost-like. Some broad strike errors have stretched the design outward, leaving the rims uneven and the horse looking warped. And die cracks raise jagged lines running across the design, add even more rarity to this coin. In pristine uncirculated condition, without a hint of wear, Kentucky quarters can already reach values between $75 and $500. But with errors, the numbers explode. Some of the most spectacular examples have been auctioned for $350,000 to $450,000. Yes, a simple quarter that could have been pulled out of pocket change is suddenly worth nearly $500,000. That's the kind of story that makes coin collectors' hearts race. So, how do you know if your Kentucky quarter is one of these rare treasures? Start by looking at the horse and the fence. Do the lines appear doubled, blurry, or stretched? Check. The mansion in the background, are the windows clear? Or do they show signs of doubling? And don't forget to inspect the rims. If they're uneven, misaligned, or unusually wide, you may have an error that collectors will pay a fortune to own. Just imagine, you're rolling coins from an old change jar. And there it is, a Kentucky quarter. You glance at it, you almost dismiss it, but then you notice the horse looks doubled, or the design is sliding off center. Suddenly, your everyday quarter transforms into a six-figure treasure, the kind of coin people dream of finding. The Kentucky 2001 state quarter shows us again that even the most ordinary pocket change can hide unbelievable surprises. Fine condition might keep it modest, but in mint state or error form, this coin stands tall as one of the most valuable in the entire series. And now, we arrive at the grand finale. The last coin on our list is the most jaw-dropping of them all. Get ready, the value of this final quarter will leave you absolutely speechless. And now, we come to the grand finale. The legendary 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter. Unlike the state quarters we've been talking about, this coin was struck to honor America's 200th birthday, and it remains one of the most recognizable and cherished designs in U.S. coinage. On its reverse, you see the colonial drummer, proudly beating his drum as a victory torch, encircled by 13 stars, rises in the background. This quarter was everywhere in the mid-1970s, handed out as change, saved in jars, and treasured as a patriotic keepsake. But here's the shocker. Some of these bicentennial quarters are worth far more than most people could ever imagine. In fine condition, the bicentennial quarter looks fairly ordinary. Millions were made, and in worn condition, it might only fetch $1 or $2. Nothing too thrilling yet. But here's where the story turns upside down, because not all bicentennial quarters were struck the same, and certain rare types, especially errors and silver versions, have shocked the collecting world with prices that soar into the six-figure range and beyond. Most people don't realize that some bicentennial quarters were struck in 40% silver, sold directly to collectors in special sets. In uncirculated condition, those already carry values in the hundreds, but add in dramatic mint errors like double strikes, off-center strikes, or major die breaks, and the numbers skyrocket. Imagine a bicentennial quarter with the drummer's face doubled, or the design shifted halfway off the coin. These aren't just coins, they're one-of-a-kind treasures. Uncirculated bicentennial quarters without errors can bring $50 to $500. But with dramatic errors, or when found in high-grade silver versions, some have sold for over $450,000. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a coin that countless people once carried in their pockets during America's bicentennial celebrations. That's the kind of shocking twist that leaves collectors in disbelief. So, how do you know if your bicentennial quarter could be a jackpot? Start by checking the date. All of them read 1776-1976. But look at the edges. If the coin is struck on a silver planchet, it will have a bright, solid edge instead of the typical copper-nickel sandwich look. Then examine the drummer. Do the lines look doubled or shifted? Check the torch and the stars. Are they crisp, or does something look off? And of course, study the rims. Any sign of broad strikes, cracks, or misalignment could mean you're staring at a six-figure rarity. Now, picture this. You're sorting through an old collection left by a relative. You pull out a few bicentennial quarters. You almost pass them by, because everyone has seen them. But then, under the light, you notice something unusual. Maybe the strike is off. Maybe the coin is silver. Maybe the design looks doubled. In that moment, you realize you're holding not just a piece of American history, but a fortune worth more than most people's yearly salary. The 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter is more than just a coin. It's a symbol of freedom, a reminder of America's 200th birthday, and for a lucky few collectors, a ticket to life-changing money. And that brings us to the end of our journey through 10 ultra-rare commemorative quarters that could be worth a fortune. From New Mexico's sun symbol to Georgia's peach, Nevada's wild horses to the bicentennial drummer, each coin proves one powerful truth. Never underestimate the change in your pocket, because sometimes 25 cents could be worth $450,000 or more. So, before you spend that quarter, take a closer look. You just might be holding the treasure of a lifetime. And if you enjoyed this journey into the hidden world of rare US coins, make sure to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries and hit that bell, because there are even more shocking discoveries waiting just around the corner. The State Quarter, one of the earliest releases in the US Mint's legendary 50 State Quarters program. At first glance, it looks like just another coin in your pocket. But hidden among the millions minted are rare survivors, errors, and unique variations that can turn this simple 25-cent piece into a jaw-dropping payday. Imagine holding a coin worth not a quarter, but over $500,000. The Georgia Quarter was released on July 19, 1999, and it showcases the official state fruit, the peach, right at its center, surrounded by live oak sprigs, Georgia's state tree. Beneath it reads the state motto: wisdom, justice, moderation. Collectors love this design for its bold symbolism and classic Southern pride. But what makes this coin truly exciting isn't just the design, it's the incredible demand, the early production quirks, and the few shocking errors that slipped out of the mint. Now, let's talk about condition. A typical Georgia quarter that has circulated heavily, showing plenty of wear and scratches, might only be worth face value. But even in fine condition, collectors will pay a premium, especially if the coin has strong detail on the peach leaves and clear lettering on the motto. These can fetch anywhere from a few dollars to several hundred, depending on the eye appeal. Not bad for pocket change. But here's where things take a shocking turn. Some Georgia quarters from 1999 were struck on experimental planchets, the same kind of metal blanks used to test the Sacagawea dollar before its release. These mint errors are unbelievably rare. Imagine finding a Georgia quarter with the golden-colored look of a dollar coin. These error pieces have sold for staggering prices, sometimes exceeding $500,000 at major auctions. Yes, you heard that right. $500,000 for what looks like a quarter, but is in fact one of the rarest mistakes in modern US coinage. Even uncirculated examples from the regular mintage, those with brilliant luster and sharp details, can sell for hundreds to thousands of dollars depending on the grading. In Ms. 68 or higher, you're looking at serious collector demand because perfection from 1999 is nearly impossible to find. And when you add in error types like double strikes, broad strikes, or off-center misalignments, you're talking values that can skyrocket well into the 5 and 6 figures. So, how do you know if your Georgia quarter is valuable? Start with the basics. Check the surfaces. Does it have a strange golden tone instead of the regular silver color? That could signal a Sacagawea test planchet error. Look closely at the lettering and rim. Are there doubling effects or off-center designs? That's another red flag for rarity. And if your coin has crisp details, no scratches, and that original mint shine, it's time to consider a professional grading service. This is why the Georgia quarter holds such a powerful place in the collecting world. It's not just a piece of history from 1999, it's a ticket to a collector's dream come true. A coin that most people tossed into vending machines could now be worth more than some houses. Shocking, isn't it? And that's just the beginning. Because if the Georgia quarter can reach these values, just wait until you see what's coming next. Next up is the 2000 Massachusetts State Quarter, a coin that, at first glance, might seem ordinary, but hidden among its mintages are jaw-dropping rarities that can change a collector's life in an instant. This quarter honors Massachusetts as the 6th state admitted to the Union, and it proudly features the Minuteman figure standing tall with his musket, symbolizing the spirit of the Revolutionary War. Behind him is the outline of the state, bold and unmistakable. But while the design captures history, it's the hidden details and mint errors that capture fortunes. Now, in fine condition, the Massachusetts quarter is easy to find in circulation. Most of these coins, worn down from 2 decades of pockets and cash registers, are worth only a quarter. But if your coin still has solid detail, clear lines on the Minuteman's coat, sharp lettering on the motto, and a decent rim, collectors will gladly pay more than face value. Sometimes a few dollars, sometimes more. But here's where it gets exciting, because some Massachusetts quarters don't just sell for a few bucks. They sell for hundreds of thousands. One of the most famous varieties of the 2000 Massachusetts quarter is the off-metal error. A small number of these quarters were accidentally struck on experimental planchets, just like the Georgia quarters we talked about earlier. Imagine pulling out what looks like a quarter, but its weight, color, or metallic shine just doesn't feel right. That tiny difference could be worth a staggering fortune. Some off-metal Massachusetts quarters have sold for prices soaring beyond $600,000, shocking even veteran collectors, even without rare planchet errors. There are valuable varieties to watch for. Some quarters show double dies, where lettering like Massachusetts or the Bay State appears faintly doubled under magnification. Others show misaligned strikes or broad strikes, where the design looks off-center or stretches beyond the normal rim. These errors can catapult a coin's value from pocket change to thousands of dollars, and in pristine uncirculated condition, even the regular strikes have reached incredible prices at auction. Coins graded Ms. 68 or Ms. 69 can bring in tens of thousands of dollars. Because perfection from the year 2000 is exceedingly rare. So, how do you identify a potentially valuable Massachusetts quarter? First, look for anything unusual about the color or weight. If it looks golden, thicker, or thinner than a normal quarter, that's a huge red flag. Second, examine the lettering closely. Doubling on words like Liberty or quarter dollar could signal a double die variety. And finally, condition matters more than you might think. A shiny, flawless coin that has never seen circulation can be worth 100,000 times its face value. The truth is, the Massachusetts quarter is more than just a tribute to American history. For collectors, it represents opportunity, mystery, and the possibility of a life-changing discovery hiding in plain sight. Think about it. Something minted in the year 2000, a year many of us remember vividly, could now be worth enough to pay off debts, buy a new home, or even secure a comfortable retirement. That's the kind of shock factor that keeps coin enthusiasts searching. And remember, this is only the second coin on our list. If you thought the Georgia quarter was amazing, and the Massachusetts quarter left you stunned, the next coin is going to raise the stakes even higher. So don't forget to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries if you haven't already, because what's coming next could absolutely blow your mind. Now, it's talk about one of the most beloved coins in American history, the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter. Almost every collector remembers these with a sense of pride and nostalgia. Struck to celebrate the 200th anniversary of America's independence, this coin is unique because it's the only circulating quarter to feature a dual date, 1776 to 1976. On the reverse, instead of the traditional eagle, you'll see a colonial drummer boy standing beside a torch surrounded by 13 stars, representing the original colonies. It's a patriotic design that captured the spirit of the bicentennial, and it still gives people chills today. Now, here's the thing. These quarters were minted in the hundreds of millions, and the one in your pocket that's been heavily worn down from circulation? In most cases, it's worth just face value. A worn bicentennial quarter usually won't buy you more than 25 cents worth of goods. But and here's the twist: hidden among these ordinary coins are extraordinary rarities that can sell for jaw-dropping amounts. Take, for example, the silver-clad bicentennial quarters. Most people don't even realize that the U.S. Mint released special collector's versions in 40% silver. If you happen to stumble upon one of these in change, even in worn condition, it could easily be worth $10 to $50. But in uncirculated, brilliant condition, some have sold for hundreds. And here's the real kicker: certain rare bicentennial era coins have shocked collectors at major auctions, reaching values of over $700,000. Yes, you heard that right. A quarter minted to celebrate America's 200th birthday could be worth more than $750,000 today. So, what makes a bicentennial quarter valuable? First, condition is key. Worn coins aren't worth much unless they carry a rare error or are struck on the wrong planchet. But the second thing to look for are mistakes. Double dies where the drummer boy's details are doubled. Off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, or even quarters struck on silver planchets by accident. These errors can make all the difference. And let's not forget about the special proof strikes, made for collectors in 1976. These mirror finish coins, especially those graded at the highest levels, can fetch thousands of dollars. But imagine the shock of finding a bicentennial quarter with both an error and a silver composition. That's where values skyrocket into the six-figure range. So, how can you identify one? First, check the edge of your coin. If you see a solid silver color instead of the usual copper line, you may have a silver-clad bicentennial. Second, use a magnifying glass on the drummer boy. Look for doubling in the drumsticks or lettering. And finally, weigh the coin. Silver-clad bicentennials weigh slightly more than standard quarters, and that small difference could mean the difference between pocket change and a retirement fund. The bicentennial quarter is proof that even the most common-looking coins can hide stunning secrets. Millions of Americans held onto these as keepsakes, but only a lucky few discovered that theirs was worth a small fortune. It's the kind of story that keeps collectors searching, checking, and hoping. And here's the best part, we're only at coin number 3. With values already climbing past $700,000, can you imagine what's next? Stick with me, because the next coin could leave you absolutely speechless. Moving on, let's turn our attention to the 1999 Pennsylvania State Quarter, the second release in the State Quarters program, and one that hides some of the most shocking treasures in modern coinage. At first glance, it's a simple tribute to the Keystone State. The design shows the outline of Pennsylvania with the Statue of the Commonwealth, a graceful female figure holding a staff, symbolizing justice and liberty. The words, virtue, liberty, independence encircle the image, driving home Pennsylvania's proud place in American history. But beneath that bold design lies the potential for life-changing value. In fine condition, like the coin most people might dig out of a drawer, these quarters generally don't sell for more than face value. A little wear, a few scratches, nothing unusual. But the truth is, even circulated Pennsylvania quarters can surprise collectors if they carry the right details. With a sharp outline, visible dress folds on the Commonwealth figure, and clear lettering, fine condition examples may still fetch a premium. But the real magic happens when you discover a rare variety or mint error. One of the most famous is the experimental planchet error. Just like the Georgia and Massachusetts quarters, a few Pennsylvania quarters were accidentally struck on different metal blanks, including those used for testing the Sacagawea dollar. Imagine pulling a Pennsylvania quarter that gleams with a golden tone instead of the normal silvery-clad look. These are so rare that when they surface, collectors go wild. Some have sold for over $850,000, nearly $1 million for a single quarter that looks ordinary to the untrained eye. And that's not the only shocker. Pennsylvania quarters with dramatic off-center strikes, double dies, or broad strikes have also surfaced. These mistakes, where the lettering looks doubled, or the design is pushed far to the edge, can bring thousands of dollars even in worn condition. Add in the fact that high-grade uncirculated coins from 1999 are tough to find without scratches or bag marks, and you have the perfect recipe for sky-high collector demand. And Ms. 68 Pennsylvania quarter has been known to bring tens of thousands at auction. So, how do you know if your Pennsylvania quarter is valuable? Start by looking at the surfaces. Does it look unusual in color, golden or brassy instead of silver? That's a huge clue you may have an off-metal error. Next, examine the lettering on Liberty, or the motto. Any doubling there could signal a double die. And finally, check the strike. If the design looks misaligned or part of the rim is missing, that's an error that could multiply the value dramatically. This coin story is the perfect example of how something so common can hold extraordinary secrets. Pennsylvania was the birthplace of the Declaration of Independence, and fittingly, its state quarter carries a legacy of independence for collectors, the independence that comes with finding a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in everyday change. Just imagine the disbelief of someone who tossed this coin into a parking meter, never knowing it could have been worth more than a luxury car, or even a dream home. And here's the kicker, we're not done yet. We've already uncovered Georgia, Massachusetts, the bicentennial, and now Pennsylvania, all with the potential to bring in mind-blowing sums. But the final coin on our list may just be the most shocking of them all. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button to us Mint Mysteries, because you won't want to miss what's coming next. And finally, we arrive at coin number 5, the 2009 Guam State Quarter. Now, at first glance, this might seem like an odd pick. After all, Guam is a U.S. territory, not one of the original states. But that's exactly what makes this quarter stand out. It was part of the D.C. and U.S. Territories program, minted for just a single year, making it one of the scarcer issues of the modern quarter series. And in the world of coin collecting, scarcity plus errors equals shocking value. The design is beautiful and unique. On the reverse, you'll see a proud outline of Guam itself, along with the flying proa, the traditional sailing vessel of the Chamorro people, and a latte stone, an ancient architectural pillar symbolizing strength and heritage. The motto, Guhan Tien Iman Chamorro, translates to Guam, land of the Chamorro, giving this coin a strong cultural identity. But while the design is stunning, it's the errors and condition rarities that push its value into the stratosphere. In fine condition, an ordinary Guam quarter might only be worth face value 25 cents, maybe a little more, to someone who's filling a collection. But the story doesn't end there, because some Guam quarters have surfaced with jaw-dropping mistakes that turned them into six-figure prizes. Imagine finding one of these coins struck off-center, with part of the island of Guam literally falling off the edge of the planchet, or a double die error where the Chamorro inscription appears doubled, giving the design a ghostly shadow effect. These types of errors can catapult a coin's value into the tens of thousands, but the real shocker comes from a handful of Guam quarters struck on experimental or foreign planchets. These coins look just a little bit different, maybe a darker tone, maybe a lighter weight. To the average person, it's nothing special, but to a seasoned collector, that tiny difference could mean the difference between a pocket full of change and a life-changing payday. Some of these errors have crossed the auction block for jaw-dropping sums, with prices pushing over $950,000. Yes, you heard that right, nearly $1 million for a Guam quarter that most people would never give a second glance, even without exotic planchet errors. Uncirculated Guam quarters in pristine Ms. 68 and Ms. 69 grades are extremely hard to find. Most coins from 2009 were poorly struck and quickly entered circulation, meaning flawless survivors are scarce. That scarcity drives demand, with high-grade pieces reaching thousands, even tens of thousands, in today's market. So, how do you know if your Guam quarter might be valuable? First, look for anything unusual about its weight, color, or edge. Next, check for doubling in the lettering or strange off-center strikes. And finally, consider its condition. If you're holding a bright, lustrous coin without scratches or nicks, you may have something worth sending in for grading. The Guam quarter is living proof that even the most recent coins can hold unbelievable surprises. Think about it. A coin minted just over a decade ago could today be worth enough to buy a dream home, secure a retirement, or pass down as a priceless family treasure. It's a shocking reminder that history is still being written and still being discovered in the coins we handle every single day. And there you have it. 5 ultra-rare commemorative state quarters that could be worth a fortune. Georgia, Massachusetts, the bicentennial, Pennsylvania, and Guam, each one with the potential to turn pocket change into life-changing money. The question now is simple. Do you have one of these hidden in your collection, or sitting unnoticed in your change jar? If this video has you racing to check your coins, make sure you subscribe to us Mint Mysteries and join our community of collectors. Because every week, we uncover the secrets, the errors, and the mysteries that could change the way you look at your coins forever. Who knows, your next quarter might just be worth a fortune. Coins in U.S. history: the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter dollar. At first glance, it looks like any other quarter from your change jar, but don't be fooled. This coin was struck to celebrate the 200th anniversary of American independence, and it hides a story that still fascinates collectors today. The design itself is stunning. On the front, you'll see the familiar profile of George Washington, but flip it over, and that's where the magic begins. The reverse features a colonial drummer boy, proudly standing with his drum, design created by artist Jack L. R. Above him, you'll spot a torch surrounded by 13 stars, representing the original colonies. It's a coin that doesn't just mark history, it celebrates it in metal. But here's where things get exciting. Most bicentennial quarters were made from regular copper nickel clad, and those are worth only 25 cents. However, a small number were struck in 40% silver, and even fewer came out with rare minting errors, double strikes, off-center impressions, or missing mint marks. These are the ones that make collectors' jaws drop. Now imagine this. A coin that once jingled in someone's pocket back in the 1970s could today be worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands, depending on its type and condition. For example, a bicentennial quarter in fine condition like the one we're looking at might fetch around $15 to $25. Not bad for pocket change. But hold on, that's just the start. If your coin happens to be one of the silver-proof strikes, especially with a deep cameo finish, you could be holding something worth $400 to $1,000 or more. And if it carries a mint error, such as a double die or an off-metal strike, prices have exploded at auction. Some of these rare bicentennial quarters have sold for over $125,000, with a few rumored examples approaching the $500,000 mark when perfectly preserved and certified by PCGs or NGC. Collectors are especially drawn to quarters that have a no mint mark error from the Philadelphia Mint or a San Francisco silver proof with a frosted finish. Those details are what turn a normal coin into a museum-worthy masterpiece. Here's a quick tip. If you have a bicentennial quarter, check the edge. If you see a silvery shine and no copper line, that means it might be one of the special silver issues. And if you spot any doubling on the date, 1776-1976, especially on the drummer's details, it could be a rare error strike. That's where the value skyrockets. Just think about it, this coin was minted nearly 50 years ago to celebrate America's 200th birthday. Millions were made, but only a handful were struck in those rare variations. The rest have been spent, lost, or worn down over time. That's what makes high-grade or error bicentennial quarters so sought after today. Collectors who grew up during the bicentennial celebration feel an emotional pull toward this coin. It represents a moment of national pride, fireworks, parades, and a renewed sense of American history. It's not just a coin. It's a symbol of freedom cast in silver and copper. So, before you spend that old 1776 to 1976 quarter, take a second look. You never know, that simple coin might just be worth more than you ever imagined. Now, let's move on to the next coin, and trust me, the next one's value will blow your mind even more. But before we do, if you're enjoying this hunt for hidden treasures, make sure to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries and join thousands of collectors uncovering America's rarest coins every week. Next up, we're traveling far across the Pacific, all the way to the tropical islands of Hawaii. And believe it or not, one of the most valuable and breathtaking quarters ever made by the U.S. Mint came from this paradise. The 2008 Hawaii State Quarter was the final coin in the legendary 50 State Quarter series, a historic program that began in 1999 and captured the hearts of millions of collectors. But what makes the Hawaii Quarter truly special is how it beautifully captures both the spirit of the islands and the story of America's 50th state joining the Union. On the reverse, you'll see a proud depiction of King Kamehameha I, the monarch who united the Hawaiian Islands under one rule. His hand stretches out toward the 8 main islands, symbolizing unity and peace. Beneath him, the inscription reads, Ua mo kiio ka ina a ka pono, which translates to the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. It's not just a coin, it's a piece of history, culture, and identity pressed into metal. Now, let's talk about the jaw-dropping part, the value. In fine condition, this coin might seem ordinary, maybe worth around 25 to 50 cents. But in uncirculated condition, especially with that brilliant mint luster, prices can jump to $30, $50, even $100. And that's just the beginning. The real treasures are the error coins, the ones that slipped through the mint's quality checks and became modern legends. Some Hawaii quarters have been discovered with struck-through grease errors, off-center strikes, or double die reverses that make the king's hand or the island outlines appear double. Those have fetched between $5,000 and $20,000 at auctions, but the rarest of them all? A small number of 2008s proof strikes in pristine, deep cameo condition, flawless surfaces, mirror-like backgrounds, and razor-sharp details. Some of those have sold for well over $300,000, with a few examples graded par 70 DCAM by PCGs or NGC reaching record-breaking bids. Collectors go crazy for these because they represent the end of the 50-state quarters journey, the grand finale. It's the coin that marked the close of a decade-long program that brought millions of new people into coin collecting. And the symbolism of Hawaii being last America's youngest state, representing beauty, unity, and peace gives it an emotional power no other coin can match. Here's what to look for if you have one. Check for a shiny, flawless surface and deep, frosted contrast between the design and the background. That's the hallmark of a proof. If your coin has doubling around the islands or on King Kamehameha's hand, that's an error, and it could be worth thousands. And if you ever see one that looks silver instead of copper nickel, you might have one of the ultra-rare silver proofs from a limited San Francisco mint issue. So next time you find a 2008 Hawaii quarter, don't just toss it in your change jar. That little piece of paradise could secretly be a six-figure treasure. It's amazing to think that a simple quarter struck just over a decade ago could already be among the most valuable of the entire state quarter series. But the truth is, the more time passes, the rarer pristine examples become. And that's what keeps their value climbing, year after year. Alright, take a breath because the next coin on our list takes rarity to an even higher level. You won't believe how high collectors are willing to go for this one. But before we reveal it, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community of collectors right here on Us Mint Mysteries, where every coin tells a hidden story, and every episode uncovers a new treasure. Now, let's saddle up and head north to Big Sky Country, Montana. The 2007 Montana State Quarter might just look like another coin in your pocket, but hold on tight, because this one hides some stunning surprises. When it was first released, collectors instantly recognized that this design had a spirit unlike any other. On the reverse, you'll see a majestic American bison skull set against a wide, open Montana landscape, a haunting yet powerful image that honors the state's rugged history and the proud heritage of the Plains tribes. The inscription reads, Big Sky Country, perfect tribute to Montana's endless horizons. But here's where things get really interesting. While most of these quarters are common and worth face value, certain varieties and mint errors have transformed this western beauty into a collector's goldmine. In fine condition, the average Montana quarter might fetch around 25 cents to $1. Nothing special, right? But when you step up to uncirculated or proof condition, especially those struck in San Francisco with that deep cameo shine, values quickly climb to $100, $200, even $500. However, the real shock comes from a few extraordinary mint errors that slip through undetected. Some of the most valuable Montana quarters ever found feature double die reverses, where the bison skull appears slightly doubled, creating an eerie shadow-like effect. Others show off-center strikes, missing letters, or even clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing due to a cutting error. One famous discovery involved a Montana quarter struck on a nickel planchet. That's right, a quarter image accidentally stamped on a 5-cent coin blank. That single error coin sold for nearly $65,000 at auction. And another near-perfect, silver-proof version in flawless condition, graded PR70 by PCGs, once hit a jaw-dropping $400,000 in a private collector sale. Think about that, a simple 25-cent coin from 2007, now worth more than many luxury cars. Collectors are fascinated by this design not only for its beauty, but for what it represents. The bison skull is a reminder of the old American frontier, of the balance between life, land, and spirit. It's a coin that tells a story, one of survival, strength, and untamed beauty. That emotional connection makes it more than metal. It's a piece of the American soul. If you have one, here's how to check. Look carefully at the word Montana and the date, 2007. If there's any doubling, extra metal near the edges, or faint cracks running through the bison skull, you could be holding an ultra-rare variety. And if the coin has that proof-like mirror surface, it might be one of the limited San Francisco issues that are already skyrocketing in collector demand. As time passes, pristine examples are becoming harder to find. Many were handled, circulated, or tarnished, meaning the ones that survive in sharp detail are now the stars of major coin auctions. So, before you toss that Montana quarter aside, take another look. That coin might not just represent the Wild West, it could fund your next great adventure. And stay tuned, because the next state quarter we're about to uncover has a secret that stunned even expert collectors. Some say it's one of the rarest modern errors ever struck by the U.S. Mint. Moving on, we ride deeper into the wild frontier, to the land of open plains, cowboys, and endless sky, Wyoming. And believe it or not, the state quarter has one of the most fascinating and valuable modern coin stories ever told. The 2007 Wyoming state quarter might seem plain at first glance, but that's what makes it so deceptive. On the reverse, you'll see a striking silhouette of a cowboy riding a bucking bronco, a tribute to Wyoming's legendary nickname, the Equality State. The design, created by Norman E. Namath, perfectly captures the rugged independence and pioneering spirit that defines the American West. But here's where things get truly jaw-dropping. While most Wyoming quarters are common, some came out of the U.S. Mint with astonishing minting mistakes that turned them into modern treasures. Let's start with the basics. In fine condition, a regular Wyoming quarter is worth about 25 to 50 cents. Not bad, but nothing special yet. Move up to uncirculated condition, and you could be looking at around $25 to $75, depending on mint mark and luster. Proof versions, struck at the San Francisco Mint with that mirror-like finish, can fetch $100 to $250. But then come the error coins, and this is where Wyoming steals the spotlight. A small number of these quarters left the Denver Mint with what collectors now call the extra leg error doubling mistake. That makes the horse's rear leg look doubled or misshapen. Another variety shows extra metal on the horse's tail, creating a ghostly second tail effect. And if you find one with a missing leg, congratulations! You're looking at one of the rarest modern quarters ever struck. One such missing leg Wyoming error coin shocked the numismatic world when it sold for nearly $250,000 in pristine condition. Yes, a simple 25-cent coin, but with an error so strange that collectors couldn't believe it left the mint. Other error types include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, or broad strikes where the rim didn't fully form, each commanding values between $5,000 and $20,000, depending on grade and visibility of the mistake. Now here's the part most collectors don't realize. Because the Wyoming design is so simple, just solid, smooth fields around the cowboy, even the tiniest error stands out dramatically. That means small imperfections that would go unnoticed on other coins pop like a neon sign on this one, making these varieties both easier to spot and more desirable to serious collectors. To identify one, look closely at the horse's legs and tail, and the letters around the Equality State. Any doubling, cracks, or distortion could mean you're staring at a minting marvel worth thousands. And remember, Wyoming's coin came out during the final years of the 50-state quarter program. when minting technology was being pushed to its limits to meet massive demand. That's part of why more subtle errors slipped through, and why these rare examples exist at all.so. Next time you find a Wyoming quarter in your change, take a closer look before spending it. That humble cowboy might just be hiding a six-figure surprise. It's wild to think that a coin representing the rugged heart of America could carry such hidden power. But that's exactly what makes coin collecting so thrilling. One small detail, one overlooked error, can transform something ordinary into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Now, let's turn the clock back to where the state quarter phenomenon truly began. 1999, the first year of the program, with the proud and beautiful Georgia state quarter. At first glance, it might look like just another quarter from your pocket change. But the deeper you look, the more fascinating this coin becomes. It was one of the very first state quarters ever struck, released right after Delaware and Pennsylvania, making it a cornerstone piece for collectors nationwide. On the reverse, you'll see Georgia's state outline framed by delicate branches of the peach tree, a nod to its famous nickname, the Peach State. Inside the outline rests the state motto: wisdom, justice, moderation, surrounded by 13 stars for the original colonies. And right in the center, that sweet, symbolic peach, the heart of Georgia's heritage. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. Because the Georgia quarter was among the first released, the mint was still adjusting to massive public demand. Billions were struck, but not all of them came out perfect. And those tiny imperfections? They've turned some Georgia quarters into jaw-dropping treasures. In fine condition, your typical Georgia quarter might be worth about 25 to 75 cents. But step up to uncirculated condition, and you could see prices jump to $25 or even $100, especially for coins with strong luster and no scratches. However, some Georgia quarters from the Philadelphia Mint carry a rare and mysterious flaw: the clash die error. That's when the coin dies accidentally strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly outlines of the coin's design pressed into the wrong side. On a Georgia quarter, that can mean faint images of the peach or the outline appearing in reverse. Those error coins have stunned collectors, some selling for $5,000 to $15,000, depending on clarity and preservation. Even more shocking, a handful of 1999 Georgia quarters struck on experimental planchets have surfaced. These were test metals the mint used before finalizing the coin's composition. One such coin, authenticated by PCGs, sold for over $450,000 at auction. Just imagine, $500,000 for a simple state quarter that most people would overlook. There's also a proof version, struck in San Francisco, that's dazzling in its mirror-like shine. In perfect PR70 deep cameo grade, these can reach $400 to $1,200. And the silver-proof editions made of 90% silver have been known to climb past $10,000 when perfectly preserved. To identify a potentially valuable Georgia quarter, here's what to look for. Check for a sharp, clear strike with frosted details on the peach and lettering. Look at the edges. If you see no copper line, it might be a rare silver proof. And inspect both sides carefully under light. Any doubling, strange lines, or ghostly impressions might signal an error worth thousands. Collectors prize this coin not only for its beauty, but also because it represents the dawn of the state quarters era, a moment when millions of Americans first fell in love with coin collecting again. For many, this was the coin that started it all. It's almost poetic, a small coin from 1999, born from excitement and national pride, now standing as a symbol of how even modern coins can hide massive value. So, before you spend that 1999 Georgia quarter, take one more look. The next time you hold that little peach in your hand, you might be holding a piece of history, and maybe even a small fortune. Now, we're heading into the shimmering desert of the Silver State, Nevada. The 2006 Nevada State Quarter might just be one of the most beautiful designs in the entire series. But beneath its gleaming surface lies a secret that has shocked collectors and sent prices soaring to unbelievable heights. The moment you flip this coin over, you'll see why it's so loved. The design is breathtaking. Three wild Mustangs galloping across the desert, manes flying, symbolizing the freedom and untamed spirit of the American West. Behind them, a rising sun and snow-capped mountains capture the vast landscape of Nevada, framed by sagebrush, the state flower, and right at the bottom, the words, "The Silver State." At first glance, a Nevada quarter in fine condition might look ordinary, worth just about 25 to 50 cents. But don't let that fool you. Underneath, there's a story of rare errors, experimental strikes, and once-in-a-lifetime discoveries that have made this coin one of the most exciting finds of modern times. Let's start with the regular issues. In uncirculated condition, Nevada quarters can bring $25 to $100, especially with sharp details and mint luster. But the proof version struck in San Francisco with that mirror shine and deep cameo frosting can fetch $200 to $500. And even more, is certified in perfect PR70 condition. Here comes the real shocker. A few Nevada quarters were struck on experimental silver planchets instead of the standard copper nickel. These ultra-rare errors were never meant to leave the mint, yet somehow, a handful escaped into circulation. One of those sold at auction for an unbelievable $475,000. That's nearly $500,000 for a quarter minted less than 20 years ago. Another fascinating error variety is known as the multiple strike Mustang coins that were accidentally struck twice or even 3 times, creating ghostly overlapping images of the horses. These have been known to reach $25,000 to $50,000 in collector sales. There's also the off-center strike variety, where part of the design is missing and the edge is thick on one side. Those can hit $10,000 or more, depending on how dramatic the error is, because the Nevada quarter's design has so many fine details: the horses, the mountains, the sun. Even tiny minting mistakes stand out clearly, making it easier for collectors to spot rare varieties. Here's what to check on your own coin. Look carefully at the horse's legs and tails for doubling or ghost images. Check the edge for unusual thickness or clipping. And if your coin looks shinier and heavier than usual, it might be an off-metal or silver strike. That's where the real treasure hides. Collectors love this coin because it perfectly captures Nevada's wild beauty and independence. It's a tribute not just to the state, but to the spirit of the West itself: powerful, free, and unpredictable. And that symbolism, combined with its error varieties, has made it one of the most hunted modern quarters in America. It's hard to believe that a coin minted in 2006 could already be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that's what makes this hobby so magical. You never know when history, beauty, and luck might collide in the palm of your hand. So before you spend that 2006 Nevada quarter, take a second look. Those galloping horses might just be carrying a small fortune across your fingertips. And stick around, because the next coin we're about to reveal is one that collectors have whispered about for years. A design so striking, and an error so rare, that a single example once brought in more than most homes are worth today. And finally, we sail east to the Ocean State, Rhode Island. The 2001 Rhode Island State quarter may look peaceful and refined, but beneath its graceful design lies one of the most surprising value stories in modern coin history. Released as part of the third year of the 50 State Quarters program, this coin celebrates Rhode Island's proud maritime heritage. On the reverse, you'll see a majestic sailboat gliding through Narragansett Bay, with the Pell Bridge stretching elegantly across the background, a perfect symbol of freedom, connection, and adventure. It's a coin that feels calm, but its story is anything but ordinary. In fine condition, a typical Rhode Island quarter is worth about 25 to 75 cents. Simple, right? But if that same coin is in uncirculated condition, showing its original mint shine and crisp edges, you could already be looking at $25 to $100. And the proof versions, especially those struck in silver with that mirror-like brilliance, can easily reach $500 to $1,000 when graded at the highest levels. But here's where the mystery deepens. A small number of Rhode Island quarters left the mint with the spectacular and rare minting error known as the double sailboat variety. On these coins, you can faintly see two overlapping outlines of the sailboat, caused by a double die error on the reverse. The result? A ghostly image that seems to ripple through the waves, and collectors went wild. One pristine example of this double sailboat error sold for an unbelievable $225,000. And experts say even circulated versions could bring in tens of thousands if authenticated. Other rare varieties include off-center strikes, broad strikes, and struck-through grease errors, where parts of the design are missing, sometimes half the sail, or the bridge appears faded or incomplete. Depending on severity, those can sell from $5,000 to $50,000 or more, and perhaps the rarest of them all, a rumored 2001 Rhode Island quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, meaning a quarter design printed on a gold-colored dollar blank. Only one confirmed specimen is known, and it reportedly sold privately for over $500,000. Think about that. $500,000 for a coin most people spend without a second thought. This coin also carries emotional weight. For collectors who grew up along the East Coast or near the ocean, the Rhode Island quarter isn't just currency, it's nostalgia. It's the smell of salt air, the sound of sails snapping in the wind, and the pride of America's smallest state, leaving a big mark in coin history. Here's what to look for. Inspect your Rhode Island quarter under bright light. Check the sailboat's lines and the bridge for any doubling or missing details. Look at the rim if the edges seem uneven, thick on one side, or off-center. That could signal an error. And if it has a proof-like shine or a silver hue, you might be holding a rare collector strike. The truth is, treasures like this don't come around often. Coins like the Rhode Island quarter remind us why every pocket of change deserves a second look. Because somewhere mixed in with the ordinary lies the extraordinary. So before you drop that quarter in a vending machine, take a moment to check it, because this peaceful-looking coin could be your ticket to a life-changing discovery. And that wraps up our journey through 7 of America's most extraordinary commemorative state coins, each one carrying a story, a mystery, and a chance at fortune. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden gems, make sure you subscribe to us Mint Mysteries and join thousands of collectors just like you, discovering the rarest coins, the wildest errors, and the most unbelievable values every week. Most people wouldn't give it a second glance, but collectors know it's anything but ordinary. I'm talking about the 1999 Connecticut State Quarter, the coin that kicked off one of the most beloved and collectible series in U.S. mint history. At first glance, you'll see that iconic design, the charter oak tree, its sprawling branches etched across the reverse. It represents strength, independence, and the spirit of Connecticut. But what if I told you that some of these simple little quarters, minted back in 1999, could be worth tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars today? Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, not to seasoned collectors who know the secrets behind this coin. The Connecticut quarter was struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and while millions rolled off the presses, not all were created equal. Some of the earliest strikes show sharper branch details and a crisp texture on the bark of the charter oak, indicators of first-eye impressions that are far more desirable to collectors. But that's just the beginning of the story. You see, a handful of these quarters came out with dramatic minting errors, the kind that make a collector's heart skip a beat. One of the most famous is the off-center strike, where the design drifts noticeably to one side. Another is the double die obverse, where Washington's profile shows faint but visible doubling, especially around the eyes. And the word Liberty. There's even a clipped planchet error version where a small crescent-shaped piece of the coin's edges missing, making it an instant conversation piece in the collector world. Now here's where things get wild. A normal circulated 1999 Connecticut quarter in fine condition might only be worth around 25 to 75 cents to most people. But in uncirculated, mint state grades, especially with sharp detail and full luster, prices climb dramatically. A pristine Ms. 67 specimen from the Philadelphia Mint has fetched more than $3,500 at auction. And then there are the error coins. Those elusive, 1 in a million strikes that make collectors lose sleep. One particularly rare double die error Connecticut quarter reportedly sold for over $25,000, while a dramatic off-center error example topped $45,000 at a private sale. But the record breaker? A flawlessly preserved Ms. 68 Connecticut quarter, with full original mint luster and zero contact marks, sold for an astonishing $227,000. Yes, nearly $250,000 to a serious collector who wanted to own the crown jewel of the 1999 State Quarter series. What makes this coin so special isn't just its age, it's what it represents. 1999 was the very first year of the 50 State Quarters program, and Connecticut was one of the first designs ever struck. That means early production runs, experimental striking methods, and the kind of small variations that drive values sky high today. Every small difference, from die polish lines to minting pressure, can make one coin stand out from the rest. So, how do you know if your Connecticut quarter might be one of the valuable ones? Look for strong, crisp details on the charter oak, especially the tiny roots and branches near the rim. Examine Washington's bust under bright light for signs of doubling. And don't overlook the edges. A clipped or incomplete rim could signal a major mint error. This is the kind of coin that reminds us all why collecting is so addictive. Because you never know what could be sitting right there in your pocket. That simple 25-cent piece could be worth a lifetime of stories, or a small fortune. Next up, we're stepping back into one of the most patriotic moments in American coinage, the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter. Now, you might be thinking, everyone's seen this coin, they made millions of them. And you'd be right. But what most people don't realize is that buried among those millions are some of the most shocking and valuable quarters ever struck by the U.S. Mint. And yes, one of them could be hiding in your collection right now. At first glance, the bicentennial quarter looks familiar. George Washington's proud profile on the obverse, and on the reverse, that striking image of a colonial drummer facing left, a victory torch surrounded by 13 stars above. It was a design meant to celebrate 200 years of American freedom, courage, and history. But beneath that patriotic design lies a world of hidden rarities that could make even veteran collectors gasp. You see, 1976 was a special year. The Mint didn't just produce quarters at Philadelphia and Denver. They also released limited collector editions in 40% silver, struck at San Francisco. These silver versions were never meant for circulation, but somehow, a small handful found their way into regular pocket change. And that's where the treasure hunt begins. A normal copper-nickel bicentennial quarter in worn or circulated condition might only fetch 25 cents to $1, maybe a little more if it's in decent shape. But once you move into uncirculated or proof silver territory, that value starts to rise fast. Uncirculated silver bicentennial quarters have sold for $15 to $100, depending on luster and condition. Proof examples with mirror-like finishes can reach $300 to $500. But we're not here for the ordinary ones. We're talking about the jaw-droppers, the coins that make collectors' eyes widen and their hearts race. One of the most sought after is the No-S proof bicentennial quarter, struck at San Francisco, but missing its mint mark entirely. Only a handful are known to exist, and one pristine specimen reportedly sold for over $117,000 at a major auction. Then there's the double die obverse error, where Washington's face and the date show a faint but clear doubling. These coins are so scarce that even a moderately visible example can bring $5,000 to $12,000. A strong, dramatic double die, especially in proof silver, could be worth $50,000 or more today. Collectors have also discovered off-metal strikes bicentennial quarters accidentally struck on nickel planchets meant for dimes, or even on silver planchets intended for $50. These rare errors are practically priceless, often commanding $200,000 to $450,000, depending on grade and condition. One-off metal bicentennial quarter, verified by PCGs, shocked the numismatic world when it sold privately for a staggering $475,000, nearly $500,000 for a single 25-cent piece. It's almost hard to believe that such a coin could exist, yet these are real stories, real discoveries, hiding among the millions of ordinary bicentennial quarters sitting in drawers, jars, and old collections across America. So how do you know if yours could be special? Start by checking the edge. If it has a solid silver color with no copper stripe, you may be holding a 40% silver version. Next, look closely under the date for the mint mark. If there's no S where one should be, you might have found something extraordinary. And always inspect the details on both sides. Under magnification, doubled letters, misplaced mint marks, or off-center strikes could be your ticket to a collector's dream. The bicentennial quarter isn't just a coin, it's a piece of living history, a symbol of America's 200 years of independence and resilience. And for some lucky collectors, it's also a bridge between nostalgia and an unbelievable payday. So before you spend that old 1976 quarter, take a second look. Because that humble little coin, the same one you might have gotten in change at a gas station or found in an old cigar box, could be worth more than your car or even your house. Now, this next coin takes us on a journey to the West Coast, a place of gold, glory, and discovery. The 2005 California State Quarter may seem like just another piece of the State Quarter series, but don't let its calm beauty fool you. Because beneath that shining surface lies one of the most mysterious and valuable modern quarters ever minted. The reverse design tells the story of California's birth, featuring naturalist John Muir, the famous conservationist who helped preserve Yosemite Valley. He stands proudly with the magnificent half-dome rising in the background and a California condor soaring above, a perfect symbol of nature, freedom, and endurance. But while millions of these quarters were struck and released into circulation, only a fraction carry the tiny differences, rare errors, and hidden qualities that can send their values skyrocketing. Let's start with the basics. The 2005 California quarter was struck at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most are made of copper nickel clad, but the San Francisco Mint also released proof versions, including limited 90% silver proofs that were never meant to circulate. While a circulated coin in fine condition might only bring about 50 cents to $1, an uncirculated or proof silver version with strong luster can fetch $25 to $75. But once you cross into the rare error zone, the game changes completely. Collectors have identified some shocking minting mistakes on this coin. One of the most fascinating is the double die reverse, where parts of John Muir's name or the outline of Half Dome appear doubled under magnification. Even light doubling can push the value to $2,000 to $5,000, but strong, bold examples have been reported selling for $15,000 or more. Then there's the struck through grease error, which gives the coin a ghostly, faded appearance, usually wiping out parts of the text or the condor's wing. Some of these incomplete designs have sold to collectors for $2,500 to $10,000, simply because they're so visually bizarre and rare. But the most valuable and shocking version of the 2005 California quarter is the off-metal error, a coin struck on a planchet, intended for another denomination. A few have been found struck on 5-cent nickel planchets, giving the coin a smaller size and duller gray color. One of these rare off-metal California quarters stunned the collecting community when it sold for over $225,000 at a private sale, and the story doesn't end there. Experts believe that a handful of California quarters were also double-struck, with visible overlapping images of Washington's bust and John Muir's profile. These extremely scarce errors, verified by NGC and PCGs, can command $75,000 to $300,000, depending on the grade and clarity of the error. Just imagine a coin that once jingled in someone's pocket, now worth more than a brand new sports car. So, how can you tell if your California quarter might be a treasure in disguise? Start by examining the details. Look closely at the lettering on California and John Muir. If you notice any doubling or shadowing, you might have struck gold. Check the edge for any irregularities. Missing copper layers or partial rims can signal mint mistakes. And always weigh your coin. An off-metal error will often come in lighter or heavier than the standard 5.67 grams. The 2005 California quarter reminds us of the spirit of the gold rush, how ordinary people became legends overnight by discovering something rare and priceless. And just like those miners of old, all it takes today is a keen eye, a bit of curiosity, and the willingness to look twice at something everyone else overlooks. Next up, we travel to the rolling bluegrass hills of America's heartland, the proud state of Kentucky, home of thoroughbred horses, historic plantations, and one of the most quietly valuable coins of the entire 50-state quarter series. The 2001 Kentucky State Quarter might look like just another pretty design in your pocket change, but hidden among those millions are a few coins so rare, so extraordinary, they've turned ordinary collectors into stunned millionaires overnight. The reverse design captures Kentucky's heritage perfectly. A thoroughbred horse standing gracefully behind a split rail fence, gazing toward the historic Federal Hill Mansion, famously known as My Old Kentucky Home. Above the image reads the state's nickname, My Old Kentucky Home, along with the year 1792, when Kentucky joined the Union. It's a beautiful scene that tells a story of pride, peace, and Southern charm. But what if I told you that some of these quarters have secrets buried deep within their metal? Secrets worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? Let's start with the basics. The 2001 Kentucky quarter was struck at both Philadelphia P and Denver D, while proof and silver proof versions came from San Francisco S. A circulated coin in fine condition like yours might be worth between 50 cents and $1.50, but when you move into uncirculated territory, values quickly climb. Mint State MS examples graded Ms. 66 and higher can fetch $150 to $500, especially if they show strong luster and no contact marks. But that's just the warm-up, because this coin also hides one of the most bizarre and valuable mint errors ever discovered. In the State Quarter series, the off-center horse strike. This dramatic error shows part of the horse's body or the mansion slightly shifted off-center, leaving an uneven blank crescent on one side. Only a handful exist, and collectors have paid $25,000 to $45,000 for well-defined examples. Then there's the double die obverse, where Washington's face and the inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust, appear slightly doubled. A sharp double-die Kentucky quarter can sell for $10,000 to $20,000, depending on clarity and condition. But perhaps the most jaw-dropping find of all is the off-metal strike, a Kentucky quarter accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a Jefferson nickel or even a foreign coin. These incredible minting blunders are so rare that one, verified by PCGs, sold for a mind-bending $412,000 at auction. Yes, over $400,000 for a quarter. Collectors also hunt for the elusive missing clad layer error, where one side of the coin lacks its nickel coating, revealing the copper core underneath. These half-silver, half-copper oddities are visually stunning and can fetch $5,000 to $12,000 depending on iappeal.so. How do you spot a potentially valuable Kentucky quarter? Look carefully at the edges. If one side appears slightly coppery or missing its outer layer, that's a red flag for a missing clad error. Examine Washington's profile and the lettering under magnification. Any sign of doubling could mean you're looking at a major double die. And of course, check the reverse, the horse's placement, the fence lines, even the mansion roof. If anything looks even slightly off-center, you could be staring at a coin worth more than a luxury car. This coin reminds us why we collect: the thrill of the unknown. The possibility that an ordinary pocket find could turn into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Every coin tells a story, and the Kentucky quarter's story is one of heritage, artistry, and pure collecting magic.so. Before you spend that 2001 Kentucky quarter, pause for a moment. Because that little coin, the one sitting quietly in your change jar, might just be a hidden masterpiece of the minting world. Now, for our next treasure, we're flying high all the way to the rugged mountains and wide skies of the American Northwest. The 2007 Idaho State Quarter may look simple at first glance, but behind that soaring design lies one of the most mysterious and shocking stories in modern U.S. coinage. The reverse design features Idaho's proud state bird, the peregrine falcon, wings spread wide in mid-flight, symbolizing speed, precision, and freedom. Below, the words, Esto Perpetua, meaning, let it be perpetual, remind us of Idaho's timeless natural beauty and unbreakable spirit. But as stunning as it looks, what makes this coin unforgettable isn't just its design, it's the unbelievable value some rare versions have reached. You see, the Idaho quarter was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with hundreds of millions of regular circulation coins produced. But among those, a few strange and beautiful errors slipped through the cracks, and those mistakes have made this coin one of the most valuable modern quarters ever struck. Let's start small. A regular circulated Idaho quarter in fine condition might bring 25 to 50 cents, maybe $1 if it's clean and well preserved. But an uncirculated, bright, full-luster example graded Ms. 67 or higher can already fetch $300 to $600, simply because finding one in perfect condition is rare. Proof versions from the San Francisco Mint, especially in 90% silver, can reach $50 to $150 in top condition, but the story takes a wild turn when we step into the world of minting errors, where simple mistakes transform ordinary coins into jaw-dropping treasures. One of the most famous is the double die reverse, where the falcon's wings and the words Esto Perpetua show faint but clear doubling. Even subtle doubling can raise the value to $8,000 to $15,000, while a strong, well-defined double die has sold for over $35,000. Then there's the off-center strike, where the design is visibly shifted, leaving a blank crescent on one side of the coin. A 20% off-center Idaho quarter once sold for $12,000, but a dramatic 60% off-center version, perfectly graded, brought a staggering $48,500 at auction. Now, here's where things go from rare to legendary. In 2007, a few Idaho quarters were discovered to be struck on experimental planchets, coins mistakenly minted on metal blanks not intended for quarters at all. These mysterious off-metal strikes are so few and far between that when one surfaced, struck on a golden dollar planchet, it sold for an unbelievable $410,000. That's right, over $400,000 for a single quarter. Collectors have also reported missing clad layer errors, where one side of the coin lacks its nickel coating, exposing a reddish copper color beneath. These unique two-tone coins have sold anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, depending on eye appeal and preservation. So, how can you tell if you might be sitting on one of these rare Idaho treasures? Start with the falcon itself. Look closely at the wings, beak, and lettering for signs of doubling or shadowing. Then examine the rim. If it looks incomplete, missing, or slightly misaligned, it could signal an off-center strike. And most importantly, check the coin's color and weight. If it appears unusually golden or heavy, you might be holding one of the few known off-metal errors, a coin that could rewrite your collecting story forever. The Idaho quarter is more than a coin, it's a symbol of the untamed American frontier, of discovery, and of the endless surprises still waiting to be found in our pocket change. It reminds us that even today, hidden fortunes can lie just inches away, disguised as the most ordinary things. So, before you spend that Idaho quarter, take a closer look, because that little bird might just be carrying a secret worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Grab your magnifying glass, and let's uncover the secrets behind these ultra-rare Pennsylvania quarters that could be worth a fortune. And if you love discovering hidden gems in American coinage, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The 1999 Pennsylvania State Quarter, the second coin in the statehood series, might look ordinary at first glance. You see that majestic outline of the Keystone State, the statue of the Commonwealth, and the motto, virtue, liberty, independence. But here's the twist: this simple design hides one of the most shocking values in the entire series when found in rare conditions or with unique minting errors. Now, let's talk about the one you might have a fine condition 1999 Pennsylvania quarter. If it's been in circulation, lightly worn, maybe a few scratches but details still visible, It's worth a solid 25 cents to a few dollars to casual collectors. But that's just the surface value. The real story begins when you flip the coin over and start noticing the smallest details. That's where the fortune hides. Collectors around the country have uncovered double die strikes, off-center mint errors, and missing clad layers that have pushed the value of this humble coin into shocking territory. One rare 1999 Pennsylvania quarter with a dramatic off-center error sold for nearly $2,500, while another featuring a full double die obverse showing ghost-like overlapping text on Liberty and 1999 reached a jaw-dropping $15,000 at auction. And the most mind-blowing of all? A mint state, perfectly preserved, 1999D, error quarter struck on the wrong planchet. A golden Sacagawea dollar blank sold for a staggering $450,000. That's right. A simple state quarter that slipped through the mint's fingers turned into a collector's dream. Nearly $500,000 for a 25-cent piece. Now here's what makes this coin even more exciting. 1999 was the very first year of the state quarter program, meaning mints were adjusting to new designs, dies, and higher production speeds. That's a perfect recipe for striking errors, and those errors are what serious collectors crave. Look closely at your Pennsylvania quarters. Check for doubled letters, strange metal tones, and edges that seem too thick or too thin. If you find anything that looks even slightly off, don't toss it back in the jar. You might be staring at a piece of American history worth thousands. The proof versions, especially those minted in San Francisco with that tiny S mark, can also surprise you. A flawless, deep cameo proof in a perfect PR70 grade has sold for over $1,800. And even uncirculated high-grade Ms. 69 coins have been valued between $250 and $800, depending on demand. Imagine that a coin you once spent on coffee could buy you a brand new car today, all because of one tiny minting detail. That's the magic of coin collecting. And that's why these 1999 Pennsylvania quarters continue to capture the imagination of collectors across the U.S.So. Before you pass on that old change, take a second look. You never know what stories and fortunes might be hidden right there in your hands. Next up, we're moving deeper into the Pennsylvania state quarter lineup, and the next one is even rarer. With the discovery story so wild, it shocked professional graders. But before we get there, if you're enjoying uncovering these hidden treasures, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our community of coin enthusiasts who know that every coin has a secret waiting to be told. Moving on to our next hidden gem, the 2001 New York State Quarter. At first glance, it looks like just another state quarter, but don't let its calm, patriotic design fool you. This one carries secrets that have stunned even the most seasoned collectors. When you hold a New York quarter in your hand, you're holding a piece of history. It proudly displays the Statue of Liberty reaching skyward, with a delicate outline of the state map behind her and the words "Gateway to Freedom" floating above. It's a coin that perfectly captures America's spirit. But what if I told you that some of these coins struck over 2 decades ago are quietly selling for thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars? Let's start with the one most people have: a fine condition 2001 quarter. Circulated, a bit worn, maybe some light scratches or fading on Liberty's torch, still a collectible worth around 25 cents to a few dollars. But here's where it gets thrilling. The moment you start spotting something unusual. In 2001, the U.S. Mint was transitioning between different production standards. Some presses were slightly misaligned, and that's when the magic, or should I say, the mystery, happened. Coins struck off center, with missing metal layers, or double dies began appearing in circulation. One collector from upstate New York found a quarter with the Statue of Liberty's torch doubled, a clear sign of a double die obverse. It was authenticated, graded mint state, and sold for $12,000. Another, a stunning off-center strike with nearly a third of the design missing, fetched $7,500 at auction. But here's the shocker: in 2001, a rare batch of New York quarters was accidentally struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, the golden blanks meant for dollar coins. Only a handful were ever confirmed, and one pristine example sold for over $480,000. Just imagine someone, somewhere, might still have one sitting in a drawer right now, never realizing it's worth nearly $500,000. So, how do you spot one? Look closely at the edges. If your quarter looks slightly golden, feels thicker or heavier than normal, or the edge doesn't have the typical copper layer showing through, you might have something incredibly rare. Even subtle toning differences, a richer gold hue, or a silvery shine that stands out can hint at an error that changes everything. Collectors also hunt for quarters with faint or missing letters, especially around Gateway to Freedom or New York. These were often the result of grease-filled dyes, a rare minting mistake that left parts of the design barely visible. One of these coins, in nearly uncirculated condition, recently sold for over $2,500. And don't overlook the proof strikes, those mirror-like coins made for collectors, especially from the San Francisco Mint with the S mark. In perfect PR70 deep cameo condition, these have reached prices as high as $1,200, while Ms. 68 uncirculated coins with flawless detail often bring in $350 to $700. Every scratch, every detail, every shimmer in the metal tells a story of chance, error, and history. That's what makes the New York quarter so captivating. For some, it's just pocket change, but for a lucky few, it's a doorway to life-changing value. Now, it's travel north to wide open skies, golden plains, and a coin that quietly hides one of the most surprising mysteries in modern minting history. The 2006 North Dakota State Quarter. At first glance, this coin looks calm and peaceful, just like the land it represents. Two mighty American bison stand against a flowing prairie backdrop, a tribute to the untamed spirit of North Dakota. Minted as part of the later Statehood Quarter series, it's a design loved by many, but hidden among the millions of these quarters, a few hold secrets that can turn spare change into small fortunes. Now, if you've got one in fine condition, you're probably seeing a bit of wear, maybe light smoothing across the bison's backs, or soft detail around the date, 2006. In that state, it's worth its face value, 25 cents, maybe $1 or $2 to a casual collector. But that's just the beginning of this story, because a few of these quarters came out of the US Mint with shocking, one-in-a-million errors that have made collectors' jaws drop. Let's start with one of the most talked about discoveries, the double die reverse. Imagine holding your quarter up to the light and seeing the outlines of the bison's head slightly doubled, or the grass below them appearing ghosted. That's no illusion. It's a minting error caused when the die shifted slightly during the strike, creating a second, faint image. One of these coins, graded in mint state condition, sold for nearly $15,000, and experts believe there are still a few undiscovered examples in circulation. Another shocking find, a North Dakota quarter struck on a Jefferson nickel planchet. It's smaller, thinner, and the outer edge might look cut off, but it's real. Only a handful of these have ever been authenticated, and one sold for an unbelievable $350,000 at auction. A quarter worth $250,000, and it fits right in your pocket. But that's not all. There's also the missing clad layer error, where the top layer of the coin's metal is completely gone, exposing the raw copper core beneath. These are easy to miss. The coin looks reddish or dull instead of bright silver. One such North Dakota quarter sold for around $2,000, while another, in near-perfect condition, was valued over $400. And for those who love high-grade coins, pay attention. Uncirculated North Dakota quarters in Ms. 68 or Ms. 69 condition, with perfect luster and no scratches, have fetched $700 to $1,500. Proof versions from the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S, can hit over $1,000 if graded PR70 deep cameo. But here's what makes this coin special beyond its value: the story behind it. By 2006, the US Mint had mastered the state quarter program, producing billions of coins. Yet, even in perfection, the unexpected happens. That's what draws collectors in that rare twist of fate, where a tiny minting error becomes a legendary find. So, how can you tell if your North Dakota quarter might be one of the valuable ones? Start by inspecting the bison. Look closely at the horns, legs, and grass for any doubling. Check the edges for a missing layer or odd coloring. If your coin feels slightly lighter or the rim looks uneven, you might be holding an error coin worth far more than you'd ever guess. Think about it: a coin that's passed through hundreds of hands, bought coffee, sat in pockets, or rolled across countertops, could be worth thousands. It's stories like these that remind us, sometimes, treasure doesn't sparkle in gold or silver. Sometimes, it jingles in your change jar. Next up, we head to the heart of America, to the birthplace of aviation, innovation, and one of the most collectible coins of the early 2000s. The 2002 Ohio State quarter. At first glance, it looks simple: the outline of the state, a proud astronaut floating above, and the words "Birthplace of Aviation Pioneers." It's a fitting tribute to the home of the Wright brothers, where flight first took off. But what if I told you this coin, yes, this humble Ohio quarter, has appeared in some of the most shocking coin auction results in state quarter history? If you're holding one in fine condition, you'll notice a soft wear over the astronaut suit, the details of the plane slightly faded, and maybe a few nicks around the rim. In that condition, it's worth about 25 cents. Maybe $1 or $2 if someone's building a circulated set. But here's where the story takes flight, because some 2002 Ohio quarters have hidden minting errors and variations that transform them from everyday change into coins worth thousands. Let's start with the one collectors still whisper about, the double die reverse. On some coins, the lettering around the state outline, especially "Birthplace of Aviation Pioneers," appears faintly double. This doubling is clearest under magnification, but even to the naked eye, it gives the letters a ghostly shimmer. One of these rare double die coins, found in an Ohio flea market, was later graded mint state and sold for $18,000. But the real shocker: a handful of Ohio quarters were struck on experimental planchets, blank metal discs intended for other denominations. One confirmed specimen, struck on a Sacagawea dollar blank, glowed with a faint golden tone, and weighed slightly more than usual. It sold for a heart-stopping $460,000 at auction. That's nearly $500,000 for a coin most people still think is worth just 25 cents. Another legendary error is the off-center strike, where part of the astronaut or the state outline is missing. A dramatic 40% off-center Ohio quarter graded Ms. 67 recently brought in $8,500. Meanwhile, a rare clipped planchet version where a small crescent-shaped chunk of the coin is missing due to a cutting error at the mint sold for $3,200. But it's not just about the errors. Even perfect, uncirculated Ohio quarters can bring serious money. A coin graded Ms. 69, with full luster and mirror-like brilliance, sold for $1,250. And if you happen to own a San Francisco's mint proof in flawless PR70 deep cameo condition, you could be looking at a value between $800 and $1,200, depending on demand. Now here's what makes the Ohio quarter so iconic. It wasn't just a design, it was a statement. It celebrated human achievement, innovation, and exploration. But ironically, it also became a symbol of minting imperfection. And that imperfection turned ordinary coins into extraordinary finds. So, how can you tell if yours might be special? Start by checking the astronaut and the airplane. Look for doubling in the text or the outlines. Inspect the rim for irregularities, uneven edges, extra thickness, or a strange golden hue. If something looks off, it might not be damage. It might be a minting miracle. Imagine this. A coin struck in 2002 slipped into circulation, handled by thousands, maybe even spent on a morning coffee, and 2 decades later, it resurfaces, selling for more than most people's homes. That's the thrill of coin collecting. Every quarter has the potential to rewrite its own value story. And now, for our final stop, we travel back to where it all began. The very first coin in the U.S. State Quarter Series, the 1999 Delaware State Quarter. It might look ordinary, but this coin ignited one of the greatest collecting frenzies in modern American history. And within this simple design, a rider on horseback hides one of the most jaw-dropping discoveries ever to come out of the U.S. Mint. The Delaware quarter honors Caesar Rodney, The patriot who made his legendary 80-mile ride to cast the deciding vote for American independence. His image gallops across the reverse, framed by the proud words, Caesar Rodney, and the First State. Millions of these were minted in Philadelphia and Denver, but just a few were struck with errors so rare, they've stunned the coin world for over 2 decades. If you've got a fine condition Delaware quarter, you'll notice light wear across Rodney's horse, perhaps smooth fields or faint lettering. It's still a beautiful piece of American history, worth 25 cents to a few dollars in circulated condition. But for a few lucky collectors, this same coin has turned into a ticket to a small fortune. In 1999, the U.S. Mint was just starting the ambitious 50-state quarters program. The machinery was pushed to its limits, striking millions of coins per day, and that's when mistakes slip through. Among the most famous are the double die, obverse and reverse errors, where parts of the design appear duplicated or shadowed. Some show doubled text in Delaware, others around Caesar Rodney. These are no ordinary misprints, they're minting marvels. One such coin, graded Ms. 68, sold for nearly $12,500, but that's just the beginning. Another Delaware quarter was found struck on a wrong planchet, specifically, a copper nickel layer meant for a Jefferson nickel. It was smaller, lighter, and unlike any normal quarter. That single coin sold for an astonishing $385,000. Imagine that a 25-cent piece bringing in nearly $400,000. Even more stunning is the missing clad layer error, where the shiny nickel coating never bonded properly. This gives the coin a reddish, coppery tone. Some of these errors have been authenticated and sold for $3,000 to $5,000, depending on condition. And if you happen to have a perfectly preserved proof from the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S in flawless PR70 deep cameo grade, you could be looking at $1,500 or more in collector value. What makes this coin so special isn't just the errors, it's the history. The Delaware quarter was the very first state coin to roll out of the mint, and it kicked off a nationwide collecting craze that brought millions of Americans into the hobby. It reminded everyone that even spare change could tell a story of courage, craftsmanship, and sometimes unimaginable luck. So, how do you know if your Delaware quarter could be the one? Look closely at Caesar Rodney's reins, his leg, and the lettering. If anything looks doubled or blurred, get it checked. Check the color. If it's too red or missing its silvery shine, that might be a missing clad layer. And always weigh it. If it feels off, lighter, or heavier, you might just have something extraordinary. Think about it, a coin struck over 2 decades ago, tossed into circulation, passed through countless hands, and today, it could be worth more than a luxury car. That's the thrill, the mystery, and the wonder of American coin collecting. And that's why we keep searching. Because in every pocket, in every old coffee can, and in every forgotten drawer across the country, there could still be a fortune hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this journey through the ultra-rare Pennsylvania state quarters and beyond, make sure to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries. Every week, we uncover more hidden treasures, forgotten mint errors, and unbelievable true stories from the world of U.S. coins. Who knows? The next great discovery might just be sitting in your hands right now.